अस्मदाचार्याणां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तनिराकरणं मे अस्तु। तदात्मनि निरते य उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So we have finished the first two chapters. In fact, the first chapter presents the nature of Brahman. The second chapter presents the Jiva Paramatmaikyam, or how the Jivaha is not different from the Paramatma or from Brahman, is being talked about. So effectively, the first two chapters of this Upanishad gives you the vision of the Shastra. Then why is the third chapter is there? So the third chapter is introduced to present a story. So the story is presented here to illustrate the superiority of Brahman and also to remove some misconceptions among other people. As we all know, that first of all, we discussed that Brahman is something that is not available for any pramanam. I mean, you cannot know Brahman. You cannot study Brahman. You cannot claim that you know Brahman. You cannot pursue Brahman as an activity or any other knowledge. Because, and the first chapter discussed the method how to do this. And the student always says, I think I know Brahman. Then the student teacher says, if you think you know Brahman, you do not know Brahman at all. So we saw that elaborate discussion, Pratibodha Viditam Matham, Amritatvam Vindate. So Natu Pramana Vishayaha. So na tatra vag gacchati, shotra gacchati, manaha gacchati. So we saw all these things in the first chapter. Then later we also saw that this Brahman is distinct from the known and the unknown. So if we say that Brahman is not available for perception, Brahman cannot be pursued by any other means of knowledge, no pramanam can reveal Brahman or cannot be understood, then how it is possible? So this can lead a manda buddhi, or a person who is not very sharp, to understand or to interpret this saying that if I am not able to objectify anything, if it is not perceptible by any Brahmanam, it is as good as non-existent. So I did not worry about all these things because it is not there, it is not existent. So this is the Amanda Buddhi, or a person who is a dull-witted person can interpret something which is not seen, not perceived, not comprehensible as not existent. And he gives Drishtantam, the story about how a rabbit has got no horn. And yet you're asking us to see a rabbit with horn. So he gives all this Drishtantaha, etc. So this Manda Buddhi is a person who is not Abuddhayaha. See, Abuddhayaha means the person who doesn't have any intellect at all. Person who doesn't know anything at all is Abuddhayaha. So he doesn't know anything about Shastram, anything about Brahman. So such a person we not worry about. We are not talking about such a person. These people are read a little bit. They studied here and there a little bit, and they got some idea about what it talks about. So they have their own inference, anumanaha, and inference is drawn from their own conclusion as to what you think it will be like this. And so these people are called Manda Buddhi. So dull-witted means they are not very sharp in grasping this subtlest thing. And because it is not possible for them to understand this, they can err on the side of Brahman not being there, non-existent, or asad. So to illustrate this story and also to glorify Brahman as the one which is the essence of everything, the Upanishad introduces a story just to divert the attention of the student, just to make it a bit lighter. So that the topic itself is very heavy, and the Upanishad presents a story with a view to see how the ahankara or the knowledge when rises can, or when you are powerful, when you become very famous, it can cloud your vision, can cloud your knowledge. So here in the story there are 4 characters are being introduced. One is called Yakshaha. Second is Vayuhu. Third is Agnihi, Indraha, and Uma Devi. So these 5 characters are being introduced there. Vayu and Agni is together. We take them together. But Vayu and Agni are also separately discussed here. So these 5 represent the topmost power or supreme power of everything. So it happens that during the Samudra Manthanam, when both were fighting for the Amritaha, nectar, there's a bitter war between the Asuras and the Devas. So it was for many, many long years they were fighting, and both were claiming victory, both wanted this. Ultimately, because of the Devas being sided by Vishnu, and because Devas were on the side of Dharma, so Dharma has to win, so the Amrita goes to the Devatas. So when the war is fought, when the Amritam is finally got by them, they become very, very complacent and they become very arrogant, Devatas. In fact, it says in the Upanishad, you'll see later on, it says, Asmakam evayam vijayo asmakam evayam mahimeti. Asmakam evayam vijayoho asmakam evayam mahimeti. So this victory, asmakam evaha, means this victory is only because of me. And Vijayaha Asmakam Evam. So I am the victorious, and this victory is only because of me. And Mahima iti. Mahima iti means what? This is my glory. So each of the devatas, the Agni Devata, the Vayu Devata, Indraha, they were all praising each of their glories. They saying that because of me, they won the war. Because of me, they won the war. So in between also they were all had differences as to who was superior one. So in the process of, when the glory comes, when the famous fame comes, you forget the truth. You forget how you went there, how you got glorified, how you won the war is forgotten. Because on the spot of moment, you only realize that I'm enjoying this and this is all because of my hard work. So the Bhagavans or the Brahman said, okay, these people are very, very now ahankara driven. And if this continues like this for a long time, it will not be good for the society in general, because the devatas will become pretty atrocious and they will in fact start to misuse the power towards the people. Because when you are very powerful, they will go and demolish all the asuras. Asura also are people. They are also there. They live in some places. And they are required in some way or the other to protect or do something else. So if everybody is demolished and these people are only powerful, the ahankara will be very huge. So Shiva decides, because at the end of the day, when Samudra Mantram goes, they all went to Shiva only. Right? They all went to Shiva and says, Trahimam, Trahimam, protect me. He says, all these things are coming up, fumes are coming up, and this is all halahal is coming out. If one drop falls into the ocean, the whole of this Srishti will be destroyed. So Shiva swallows the poison, and then the story is Nilakantaha, everything is there. We all know about it. So Shiva is the protector, he is the sustainer of the universe, and he is the one who, Samhara Murti also. So he's got a big responsibility. And Shiva also represents wisdom or knowledge. Sada Shiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam. So all the knowledge starts with Shiva. So when he hears about all these things, all the devatas fighting among themselves, all the fighting, they're all dancing up and down. He decides to teach them a lesson. It is now they have to be brought back to senses. Just as when we become extremely knowledgeable, aham panditaha, we say. So when we say panditaha means what? You become panditya madhurtana, then you forget other things. Oh, see, I'm a great person. I will be respected. He should come and talk to me. I will not go and talk to him. Now, all these things will come because of the pandityam or the ego comes in there. So you forget that by knowledge, one has to become more compassionate, more calmer, and more approachable and more easier. Correct? That is what knowledge is supposed to give you. But when knowledge itself becomes a barrier to communicate and to do things, then such a knowledge has to be curtailed or it has to be explained in a better way. So Shiva is Sarvavyapihi. He says everything. He says to Uma that look, we have to go and resurrect this whole thing. So Uma is somewhere meditating on Lord Shiva. As usual, she is very contemplative on Lord Shiva and she is in some other place meditating there. So the Shiva assumes the form of Yakshaha. Yakshaha means a celestial being, a very divine or a divya, a very, very celestial power. And he goes into the Devata's court. He presents himself saying, people are all worried about who is this brilliant light. They cannot see this light. Or the light is so brilliant that they are not able to see, their eyes are, they're looking like this all the time. So everybody is asking, Indra, who is this person who is so brilliant here? Do you know about him? Before they are talking about it, the Yaksha leaves the court and he goes. So Agni, Indra says, Agni, go and find out who is this person. Because we need to know who was the divine being who was here, who is more, we couldn't even see who he was, and we couldn't even tell who he was. So we need to know who is. Is somebody is an imposter? Is somebody coming to threaten our kingdom? He could be a Rakshasa in some other form. All these doubts come into the person's mind. So Agni says, I will go and talk to him and then see what he can do. So Agni goes in the direction of Yaksha. So Yaksha sees the Agni coming behind him. He says, why are you following me? He says, no, you came into the court and you just disappeared without saying anything. I need to talk to you as to who are you? Who are you? So Agni says, who are you? Yaksha says, who are you? He says, oh, so you don't know me? I am Agni. I'm also called Jata Vedaha. So I'm the person who, can give knowledge and wealth. And I'm also the person who carries all the devotees' request to all the devatas, and the devatas is the person who give. We give everything to these people. So how come you don't know me? He says, what you can do? The Yaksha asks, okay, so you are Agni, so what? So what you can do? He said, you don't know what I can do? I'm Agni, the fire god. I can burn everything here. If I choose to burn, I can do the entire Srishti, I can burn it. Oh, so you are so confident about burning the entire Srishti. Then he said, okay, do this. See, from his tapas, he just takes one grass, kucha grass, darbai, and he places in front of Agni. He says, burn it. Agni tries different things. The grass would not even budge, it wouldn't catch fire. Then he goes and sits on top of the kucha grass itself, saying that maybe my power is not working. The entire power, samashti power will actually work on this kucha grass. He sits on the kucha grass, nothing happens. So he accepts defeat. He thinks, oh, I don't know who you are. But he goes back to report Indra. He goes to Indra and says that I tried everything and I couldn't even burn the small grass which he presented. So Yaksha, he takes the grass, he goes away, he starts walking, going to his place. Then Vayu says, no, Agni, we can't accept defeat like this. Let me go and talk to him. So Vayu goes. Same thing, Vayu says, who are you? He says, same question happens, who are you? What you can do? I can blow everything out. He says, okay, blow this pucha grass. So Vayu also tries same thing, he couldn't blow anything. He accepts defeat, then comes back to Indra and says, see, Agni has failed and I have also failed. And I don't know, you are the only person left now. So Vayuhu represents, Agni represents the five sensory powers. Vayuhu represents the five sensory organs. Because Vayuhu, when Vayu blows, you can feel the touch, you can feel the tvachaha, right? You can feel it. The air circulating around the universe, you can see the air is there. So you can see cold, you can see different. The sensory powers are within the Agni, that is what it illumines, it burns everything. So the energy is called the Agni. So the five sensory organs cannot touch the Yaksha. The five sensory powers cannot touch the Yaksha. Then Indra comes. So Indra is called the Manaha, Buddhihi, Chit and Ahankaraha, the mind, Antakaranaha. So Indra now comes. As soon as Indra comes, Brahman disappears. This Yaksha just disappears. And he sees Yaksha and then he immediately sees him disappearing somewhere. So he is asking, how come you are able to, When Agni was there, you were able to talk to him, you asked him questions, you gave him test. When Vayu came, you are giving him test. How come when I am coming here, you're disappearing? Don't you think it's insult to me, or you don't want to face me? But I will track you anyway. So what does he do? So he sits there, meditates. He meditates with one focused mind as to, I want to know who you are. I want to know who you are. Then so in this way meditating, he keeps walking, and finally he sees Uma Devi sitting and meditating. So he asked, celestial lady, who are you? He said, I am Uma, and I am meditating on Lord Shiva, who is supposed to be the Brahman or the all-knowing personality. Then he says that this Yakshaha which you saw is none other than Brahman or the consciousness, and I am the person meditating on him to become one with him. So then Uma represents the Shastram here. Uma Devi represents the Shastram here. So she gives him knowledge on what Brahman is. And then finally Yaksha appears in front of him, before him. And then Indra accepts defeat, saying that all of us, we were under the impression that we are superior to each other. I finally understand that we are not superior to you. You are the all-pervasive, you are the all-knowing, you are all-powerful. You are the one which is the illuminator for every one of us. So this story is presented here because all the philosophers in this world, excepting the Advaita philosophers, excepting Advaitam philosophers, every other philosopher do not accept Nirguna Brahma Upasana. They do not accept because they cannot see, they cannot experience, they cannot visualize, they cannot comprehend what it is. They are willing to accept Saguna Brahma Ishvaraha. So as long as the Shastram talks about Saguna Brahma Ishvaraha, they are perfectly happy with it, they accept the theory. But the moment you go from Saguna Brahma to Nirguna Brahma Upasanam, they do not accept this theory. So to prove that, to make sure that Nirguna Brahma Upasanam is understood correctly by this Manda Buddhi people. So Manda Buddhi means what? They are not deluded people. They are slightly people who are actually taking the wrong course or wrong assumption due to something or the other. So all the Dvaitis, Vishishta Advaitam, the Bauddha Madaha, Vaisheshikaha, all of the philosophies, Nayayika, all the philosophy people are there. They all are same. So Ramanuja also, they are all Dvaitis, everybody, they are all accepting Dvaita philosophy. They cannot accept Advaitam. They may study Advaitam, but they will ultimately believe only in Dvaitic philosophy. They will talk about Brahman, they will talk about things. But ultimately, when accepting the philosophy, they will not accept this Nirguna Brahma Upasana. So Adi Shankara here introduces a story mainly to remove any doubt from anybody's mind that anything which is not perceivable, anything which is not describable, or which cannot be objectified, cannot be taken as non-existent. So the Bhashyam goes through a little bit detail, and it says how they understand as this to be non-existent because they do not see this, or they cannot objectify this. So they cannot accept this view. So always Purva Paksha, whatever you give them explanation, whatever you convince them, they will continue with their own vision. See, it is like, if you have a Vishita Advaitam person, or if you have a Dvaiti who you're dealing with, whatever you tell them, you may say that I explained to you what Brahman is. Oh, Brahman is like this. Yes, very good. But I don't accept this. According to me, I am very happy with my this thing, and this is what I belong. I am happy with my bhakti philosophy. This is what I would like to be. He is not interested in your theory. You may do everything possible to explain. You will give Drishtantaha, he will give you Hetuhu, all of them will give, but he will not be interested in taking it anything further than this. So that is why this keeps coming up again and again to reassert the view that if it is possible for someone to mistake something which is not there, saying it is not existing at all. So to refute the theory or to refute all the madhams, if there's anybody else who is not covered, he refutes everybody, saying that all of you who are thinking in this manner, you're all Manda Buddha, Manda Buddhi people. So Adi Shankara is a sharp person. He is, first of all, he's Buddhaya. He's definitely knowledgeable, and he's also a very, very sharp person. He could grasp. See, by the age of 32 years, he had left this universe. So in 30 years' time, by the time 8 years old, he was already knowledgeable. He was teaching, Vedantic text. He was 9 years of age to people older than him. So for a person to be understanding so many things, he has to be extremely brilliant, extremely sharp. Thereby, when he writes commentary like this, we can accept that yes, we are Manda Buddha, or we are not Abuddhaya. So we cannot call that we do not have buddhi at all. We have intellect. We have, but our reasoning is coming from our own understanding or our own misunderstanding what it could be. So the object is to correct this. So the story is introduced with a view to correct that wrong notion, and also the ahankara that if you know something, this is what I think is correct. So to correct the vision, that's what is introduced. Like the Agni, Vayu, etc., they had a vision that they were the most powerful. They do not need to know about anything else. They forgot about everything else after getting knowledge or having understood the Bhagavan's Srishti, the power was there. Then they were reveling in their own merrymaking, etc. So to remove those misconceptions, remove those, and to present the Brahma Vidya as the topmost or the most highest amount of Vidya, this glorification is presented here. So that is in section 3.1, if you look at here, so we'll read that mantra and then we will go to the Bhashyam. So, Brahmaha hadevebhyo vijigge. Brahmaha hadevebhyo vijigge tasyaha brahmano vijaye devaha amihi yantaha. So, Brahmaha devebhyo vijigge tasya brahmano vijaye devaha amihi yantaha. Then 3.2 also. Aikshantaha asmakam evayam vijayoho asmakam evayam mahimeti. I told you this, correct? Remember I told you? The Aikshantaha asmakam evayam vijayoho asmakam evayam mahimeti. So this is the mantra which I explained in the class, just the story as well, correct? This is what the devatas are renouncing, or they are rejoicing, saying that asmakam evayam vijayoho asmakam evayam Mahimeti. So this is how they are rejoicing. Then Tadvaisham Vijagyoho Tebhyoho ha Pratur Tanna Vyajanata Kimadim Yakshamithi. So the Yakshaha is introduced, the Brahma is introduced in the previous verse. So if you look at the previous verse, Brahmaha Devebhyo Vijigge. Now, if you go to the Bhashyam, which is in page number 1 of 3 point, of first number point, number 3.
I don't seem to have that
You don't have
section. I've got only up to page 60.
Page 60?
So 68. If you have the text.
Oh, page 68. No, you don't have the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I think today I will not be covering this at all.
Okay.
I'll just. So the reason for the story is, as I told you, when Brahman is presented as something which is unknown, or something which cannot be perceived, or which is forgotten. So to correct that error, the story is given as the Yakshaha. The story is given there, the characters are given there for Saguna Brahma Upasana. So they come there mainly to introduce themselves, just to make it a little bit more, illustrative for the power of Brahman, that there's nothing really here other than Brahman. The mind itself cannot go there. Right? The speech cannot go there. The sensory organs cannot go there. So Vayu cannot reach Brahman. Agni cannot reach Brahman. Indra also cannot reach Brahman. Only when Indra meets Uma Devi, the Shastram of the Pramanam, through which he understands who Yaksha is. So in the Upanishad we say, Yato Vacho Nivartante Apraapya Manasa Saha Anandam Brahmano Vidvan Nabibheti Kadachaniti. So Apraapya Anandam, see Apraapya Manasa Saha means even the mind cannot go there. And Yato Vacho Nivartante, even the Vak, Agni is supposed to be the Nak. So even Agni cannot go there, and mind also cannot go there. Right? Anandam Brahmano Vidwan, the person who realizes Ananda as the one's own true nature is Brahmana, and he is a Vidwan. So the same thing is talked about in the Taittiriya Upanishad is given in this example as the mind being the Indra, the sensory powers being Agni, the sensory organs being the Vayu. So all the three cannot touch Brahman. With this, the kind of physical touch they got, the body they got, they cannot touch it. You'll have to transcend these three things for you to really know what Brahman is. And that is what Shastram, as Uma Devi is presented there as the one who gives knowledge to these three people, to Indra, because Indra is supposed to be the mind. So the mind gets illumined, all the sensory organs also get illuminated. Right? You do not need to teach Vayu what it is, because the mind goes and tells, oh, look, this is what it is. So through the mind, you foresee things, you are able to cognize the correct things, the instructions are given correct things. That's why only Indra was able to meditate. With sensory organs, you cannot meditate. Is it correct? With sensory powers, you cannot meditate. Because sensory powers depend on the mind. Sensory organs depend on the sensory powers. These two people do not have existence of their own. So these people are not eligible anyway for contemplation. Only the mind you can contemplate. Only in the mind of the person itself is knowledge available. There's no other place where you can arrive at Brahman. That is why Indra is, as soon as Indra comes, Yaksha leaves or Brahman leaves for him to to study, to go after as to who is that person and how do I know that person. So what is that knowledge by which he is known? Hope you get the story, get the connection. So the connection is that whenever the interest to know is there in the right direction, then you will be led in the right direction. So the story is presented just as illustration, the same chapter 1 and 2, but just to illustrate the glory and to reduce the mithyatvam of the Atma, of the mind, the sense organs, the powers. So these things cannot be known, which is talked about also in Taittiriya Upanishad. So there's a reference in this Upanishad also to Taittiriya Upanishad. But they all are connected. So that is why sometimes we need to study all of them to know, oh, okay, Atala Padi Kana. Means whatever is said there is also applicable here. But it's said different context here. The story is given different context, but you'll have to relate it to that in that manner. So what I will do is, today I just wanted to present this simple summary of what the story is all about. The Bhashyam pretty much goes through the view of the Guru Pakshaha. And the story is presented in a different format, which will, when you read the Bhashyam, will understand what it is. So if you do not have this particular page, I will send you the whole Bhashyam to you.
Okay.
So you can,
Okay.
or I'll ask Uma must be having it. I'll ask him to send it to you.
All right.
Okay, Sriramji. Okay, Jay. So we'll stop here
Yeah.
today.
All right.
Next class we'll go to the Bhashyam. Hopefully you'll have a text because you need a text to understand the Bhashyam. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you will not be able to comprehend what I'm saying because the words are important.
Yeah.
So we'll send a text next time to you, and then we will next class will continue.
Okay.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste Shubha. Jay, you are actually, you can view the videos. My videos are there on YouTube. You can see them, right?
Oh yeah, yes, definitely yes.
So even if you're not following process of the Bhashyam, you're not able to come to the class.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Bhashyam I sent it to everybody in the group chat, right?
Yes, yes.
So you
I
can
can listen to it.
follow the recording. You can follow the class.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, Hari.
Okay.